Truly, this is the day that the Lord hath made. We shall rejoice and be glad therein. It is a day, a new day that the Lord has given us. It's an opportunity for us to shape this day and to make it uniquely our own. It's an opportunity for us to use the gifts and talents, the wisdom and knowledge that the Lord has given us to be able to advance our goals and our purposes in life. An opportunity to thrive. So I thank him for this new day that we've not seen before, that he created. I thank him for clothing us in our right mind and giving us a mind to serve and acknowledge him. On this day, I want to talk to you about a study that's entitled The Righteous Judge. It is important that we understand that the Lord God Jehovah rules over all. So that being the case, it matters not who mankind puts in control of anything. They still are all underneath the Lord God Jehovah, the righteous judge. It's important that we understand that in the world today, many people are appointed. They're designated for positions of authority by man. Positions that give them a certain amount of power to be a judge over other people, places, over things. That happens quite a bit in this world that we live in. And since man's existence, that has always been the case. There have been people who were appointed or designated to positions of authority, positions that gave them the ability to be a judge. But some examples of these positions are some that you are probably aware of. For example, a president, a prime minister, a governor, a mayor. But then there are others, and there are many other positions, senators and members of the House of Representatives. But then there are other positions in which people are appointed or designated to a position of authority as well, in which people give them power to be judge over other people, places, and things. For example, the CEO of a company, a vice president, a director, a manager, a supervisor, even a group leader or a team leader are all people who have positions of authority, who've been appointed or designated in some capacity. But it doesn't stop there. Business owners, kings, queens, coaches, referees, directors, principals, teachers, all of these positions are appointed or designated. They are positions that hold authority, people who have been given power to be judged over other people, places, or things. And it doesn't stop there. It goes even a little further into an area that you might not think about in this regard, but it is the same. It is also true. Fathers. Fathers are appointed or designated to positions of authority. They've been given power to be a judge over other people, places, and or things. The same is true of mothers. Mothers have been appointed or designated to positions of authority that give them power to be judge over other people, places, and or things. So when you look at this perspective in life, what you realize is that the quality or effectiveness of a person's life, or the quality or effectiveness of their abilities to judge, if we're not careful, can be impaired by their ethics, their values, and their character. That's what makes the people different. That's what makes the effectiveness of their judgment, that's what makes the effectiveness of their ability to judge different. It's their ethics, their values, and their character. And what we find is that when a person's ethics, values, and characters are impaired, their ability to judge properly dwindles, to judge righteously dwindles. If you use the word bad, just take the word bad or the word terrible, just as an example. If you use the word bad or terrible, you put that in front of any of the positions that I just called out, you'll begin to get the idea of what I'm referring to here. You may have, at some point in time in your lifetime, heard the term used, bad father or a terrible father a bad mother or a terrible mother, a bad sibling or a terrible sibling, a bad business owner or a terrible business owner, a bad CEO or a terrible CEO, a bad king, queen, prime minister, president, vice president, or a terrible king, queen, prime minister, president, vice president, a bad supervisor or a terrible supervisor, a bad director or a terrible director or manager, a bad leader or a terrible leader. And certainly you may have heard someone use the term, a bad coach or a terrible coach, a bad referee or a terrible referee, a bad principal or a terrible principal, a bad teacher or a terrible teacher. But when you put those two words, or one of those adjectives in front of those positions, what you begin to do is to understand that those positions, when people are appointed or designated to those positions, truly the quality or the effectiveness of their ability to judge can be impaired by the wrong ethics, values, and character. And if it's impaired by the ethics, values, and character, the people that they are responsible for judging get impacted. The people who they're responsible for overseeing get impacted simply because the quality or effectiveness of their ability to judge is impaired because of their ethics and their values and their character. See, it's ethics, values, and character that impair your ability to be effective, especially when you're being asked to be a judge. And it's largely because of their inability to be able to judge righteously or render a fair or balanced decision. When people have a difficult time rendering fair or balanced decisions, they cannot be an effective judge. Yet there are people who are designated and appointed to positions of authority who, when they're in those positions of authority, are not able to they're not able to judge righteously or render a fair and balanced decision. So these bad individuals, these bad decision-making individuals, these terrible decision-making individuals make a series of choices that end up negatively impacting those whom they are responsible for, who they are responsible to be judged over: people, places, or things. Whether it's a family, whether it's a father who has children, a mother who has children, or a mother and father who have children, or whether it is a principal who has teachers, or whether it is a teacher who has students, or whether it is a coach who has athletes, or whether it is a supervisor, a manager, a director, or a vice president, or a CEO that has employees, the same is still true. They've been appointed or designated to a position of authority, and if their ethics and character cause them to have an inability to judge righteously or render a fair and balanced decision, they will negatively impact the universe of people that they're responsible for being a judge over, that they've been empowered to be a judge over. They will negatively impact the people. They will negatively impact the place that they reside. They will negatively impact the things that are associated to in their universe. It's the truth. It applies to anywhere in the world that there may be people. When we have these kind of situations, this is the kind of situations that people find themselves in, that we find ourselves in different parts around the world, different countries around the world. Not only today, but in man's history as well. It's been the same. You look back on different people, different leaders who emerged in history. One of the things as you begin to learn about them, one of the things you begin to take away from what you learn about them is their ethics and their values and the character that they possess. And you quickly begin to see that impression or that influence directly touching those whom they were given power to be judged over, the place that they were empowered to be responsible for, the things that they were given power to be responsible for. And so the Lord knew that this would be the case. So today, the Lord wants me to remind you that although in the world many people are appointed, designated to positions of authority and position, that they've been given power to judge, to be the judge over people or places and things, because many people's ethics and their values and their character don't allow them to be fair and balanced in their decision making. Although it feels like you can't overcome that situation, although it feels like there's no way to be victorious over that situation, the Lord wants me to remind you that we have a God who sits high and looks low. And though through his phenomenal acts that no man or evil spirit can stand against, he judges us all and causes those things those things that are needed, which appear not to be, to suddenly appear. In other words, if we would choose to rely upon the Lord God, Jehovah, in the face of anyone, any human being that's been appointed or designated to a position of authority on this earth, the Lord God can change their circumstance, can change the circumstance so that circumstance would not negatively impact you. That's what the Lord promises us. He can cause things that be not as though it always was. He can cause things to miraculously happen in an amazing way, so as those good results, it appears those good results always would have existed. In other words, he can give you, and I'm speaking specifically as individuals, because this is where we have to recognize is the Lord has an individual relationship with each and every one of us. And to the degree that we learn how to rely upon him, he will do new things for us and cause our situation to be uniquely favored if we acknowledge him and learn to rely upon him as that righteous judge. In the world, we can get so immersed in the day-to-day going on in the world, and our minds, if we're not careful, because of the communications that go on in the world, a phase that suggests that we have no hope. And what the Lord needs us to do is to not fall into that state. Because if we are in that state, if our ethics, if our values and the character that we displays that we are in that state, we are living in that manner, then it means that we do not see hope beyond those who've been appointed or designated in positions of authority that appear to be over us. In the days of slavery, for example, although the slavery actually was happening, the expectation was people would believe that there was a way beyond that circumstance. And we're here today as proof that there was hope beyond that circumstance. People are enslaved and in bondage in different ways today. But understand, it is the righteous judge, it is the Lord who has the ability to change our individual circumstance if we learn to rely on him, regardless of what the current situation or the current judges suggest. And we're talking about judges, those who've been given positions of authority who judge unfairly, those who've been given positions of power to be judged over other people, but because of their inability to judge righteously or be fair, they do things, they say things that are wrong. They do things and say things that they would want to happen to themselves. So above these groups, these segments of people, what we must know is the Lord God Jehovah is over us all. Doesn't matter what group you might call them. If it's a group that hates people, we still have the Lord God Jehovah who is over all of us. To help ground you in the study, I want to share with you 3 Bible spelling words. The first Bible spelling word is the word authority. Authority is defined by Webster as meaning power to influence or command thought, opinion, or behavior. Our second Bible spelling word is the word judge. And judge is defined by Webster as meaning form an opinion about something or someone after careful thought. Now, there are other words that mean judge, and these are other definitions for the same word, but they're simply one word. The second definition is decide. The third definition, determine. And the fourth definition is the word think. But when we understand this definition, one who makes judgments, what we find is that everybody, in some way, shape, or form, does what? Judge. Everybody thinks. Everybody determines. Everybody makes a decision. Everybody forms an opinion about something or someone after giving some careful thought. But you can take it even further. There are some who form opinions about someone or something after not giving it any thought at all. This is how we get the label bad or terrible put in front of that position or role that that person is in. When they form an opinion about something without giving it any careful thought, or form an opinion about someone without giving it any careful thought. That's how that label bad or terrible gets put in front of that particular position for that individual. Because of the importance of this idea of thinking and determining and having someone that makes judgments and having to form the right opinion about someone or something and giving it careful thought. Because of its importance, the Bible has a book that is named what? Judges.
Judges?
It's a book that basically talks about, that gives you insight to the tribal heroes who exercised leadership among the Hebrews. And it happened all after the death of Joshua. This is something that's a part of the fabric of our life. So judgment is a very important component of our life. Judgment is what happens when we interact with people, when we collaborate with people each day. Judgment. There is a legal definition that I'm going to give you for our third Bible spelling word, which is judgment. And this legal definition of judgment is important because this legal definition of judgment will help you understand the behavior of mankind. The legal definition of judgment is a decision by a person or a body. A body could be, for example, a board of directors or a steering committee or a governance committee. A decision by a person or body having authority to act on behalf of a business and usually marked by reasonableness and the exercise of due care. Whether it is judgment or whether it is judge, it references the fact about how you make the decision. After thought, our definition of judge says after careful thought. Our legal definition of judgment says marked by reasonableness and the exercise of due care. The definition suggests that you are introducing some part of you in order to come up with a fair and balanced decision. Because the legal definition starts out by saying a decision by a person, or it could be a decision by a body. It can be a decision by a leader of a company. It could be a decision by any of the people or the positions that I called out earlier. Or it can be a group of people. A body could be a group of coaches. They have to get together and make a decision about something. It can be a group of teachers within a certain department. They have to get together and make a decision about something. It can be a group of principals. It can be a group of lead managers, supervisors, directors, vice presidents, CEOs. The key is that judgment is something that happens more frequently than we realize. So by us doing this so much in the world, in our lives, that means we judge quite a bit. We think, we make judgments. But how good a judge we may be, whether or not we are a fair judge, will depend on how our ethics and our values play into it.
Oh, praise be to God, from whom all blessings flow. It is our prayer at Clay Family Ministries that your life has been increased with the increase of God through this study. We appreciate and are thankful for your fellowship during this life skills study segment.